Over the last 20 years, American obesity has been on the rise, from 30% to now well over 40%, which means nearly half of all Americans are either overweight or obese. And a lot of times the thought is this is related to poor choices and laziness. And the truth is that might just be a small part of the story. There's a lot more to it, and we're going to get into that today. The reality is the environment in which you live in, your body and the hormones and how they react, and the food system and how it's created and how it's distributed all works against you. And it's not you that is the problem. It's the stuff that is around you that you haven't asked for that creates a lot of these problems. And we're going to dig into that today. We're going to share those issues, and we're going to give you some tips on how you can fight back. And when you know what's happening, you have the first ability to know how to prevent it from happening to you in the future. And the goal is that after you know this information, you'll be able to fight back every time you see it happening to you from now on and into the future. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the food that we're surrounded by. Fast food, processed food. It tastes good and it's easily available. And the problem is that it's designed to be that way. The food companies spend millions and millions of dollars to make the food taste good. And the problem is it not only tastes good, it just never seems to be enough. If you eat it to the point where you just can't be satisfied. I mean, did you ever think about the last time you ate a full bag of apples and then you wanted more? Of course not. Usually one apple is enough. Yet you can eat a full family-sized bag of potato chips if you're not careful. And chances are you may want more. The food is designed to have the right amount of sugar, the right amount of fat, and the right amount of salt to just make you want to keep taking another bite. And that's what you need to know. You need to know that if you're eating these types of foods, they're never going to satisfy you. And the other thing you need to know is these foods are high in calories, which means they will contribute to obesity, because not only do they not satisfy you, they just put you well past your calorie allocation in no time at all. And if you do it day after day after day, by the end of the year, yeah, you'll pack on a lot of pounds. One of the things we talk about is the freshman 15. When kids go to college, they've changed their routines. And one of the things is the food is easily available, in the lunchroom and maybe even in other places as well. And they don't really think about what they're eating. And it's real easy for them to eat food if mom and dad aren't regulating it for them, well past what they're used to. So that's the first thing you want to think about. The second thing is, what can you eat that will satisfy you? Those are things like chicken and protein from, beef. But what you can eat are fresh vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains. These are more nutrient-dense foods, and they will fill you up. Now, here's the other problem that we live with. These foods are more expensive than the foods that aren't as good for you. So the temptation is to always want to buy foods that are cheaper, or perhaps financially that's all we can afford. But what I would want to advise is consider the nutrient-dense foods. You'll eat less of them more frequently. So even though it costs more when you purchase them on the first time, it will last longer and it will satisfy you more. Whereas the cheaper foods, they're only cheap when you purchase them, but when you purchase more of them more frequently, price is pretty equivalent and you're actually just buying a lot more calories for the same amount of dollars. The other thing I want you to consider in your environment is how we have lived now with social media and how our work environment has changed with technology. In the past, if you wanted to go visit somebody or connect with them, you would either get out of your house and walk down the street or get in a car and go for a drive to go visit the people that you want to spend time with. And at work, if you had to go to meetings, you may have to walk down a hall or perhaps even go up or down a couple flights of steps. Now, a lot of this happens online with Zoom calls. So it's very easy to find yourself sitting in chairs many hours of many of the day. And this takes away from the calorie burn that helps to reduce the calorie intake that we used to be accustomed to in the past. So now not only are we eating a lot of high calorie foods, but we're also not burning calories in the way that we used to 20 years ago. So these are the things that are stacked against you, and you want to be able to make better choices on the foods that you eat and not necessarily let the dollar signs. You don't necessarily want to be driven simply by the dollar signs. You want to make sure you're getting your body quality foods, not just cheap foods. And you want to make sure your body's moving, and you want to take opportunities to get out of your chair and go for a walk to give yourself the opportunity to burn those calories. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what happens inside your body. When you eat food, your body uses that food for energy, particularly carbohydrates. So when you eat the carbohydrates, it produces sugar, and that sugar then triggers your body to release insulin. And that insulin is what unlocks the sugar from your cells to give the body the energy that it needs, that it's calling for. So when you eat carbohydrates that are simple, like white bread and soda and candy, your cells become overwhelmed with sugar, and the body starts to call for insulin, but it just ignores it because it's so overwhelmed. When this happens, it's called insulin resistance. So when your body resists insulin, the sugar has nowhere to go. So it will store it as fat in the body instead of using it for energy. And it will continue to do this. And this just means that your body system is broken. It's not that you're necessarily overeating, but that your body is using the sugar for fat and not energy because it's not recognizing the call for insulin. And this is part of the problem that we're also seeing, the obesity epidemic in America. So let's talk about two more hormones that are in your body, ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is the hormone that tells your body when it's hungry, and it says, hey, I need to eat. And leptin is the hormone that tells your body, I'm full. It means stop eating, satisfied, I don't need any more. When those two hormones work together, it seems like a perfect system. You know, your body will say when to eat, and your body will say when not to eat. And then it's like, okay, perfect. But the problem is we don't have that. But when you eat a diet that's high in sugar, your body becomes leptin deaf. And what does that mean? That means your body doesn't hear the leptin call anymore. So the hormone may be saying, yes, stop eating, I'm full, but because you can't hear it, you keep eating. And ghrelin keeps overreacting, which means give me more, give me more. So this is the problem with eating a high sugar diet. You tend to override these hormones that are designed to do things to keep you in perfect balance. And it even gets worse because as you get stressed, your body tends to release chemical called cortisol. So you could be stressed from schoolwork, just regular work, or financial problem. And this creates cortisol, which makes you stressed, and stress creates hunger, any hunger, but hunger that wants sugar foods. So high calorie, sugary foods. So when this happens, your body starts to ask for things that it doesn't need, but that it wants, and that's not healthy. And on top of that, when you're stressed, you tend not to sleep well. And when you don't sleep well, that also makes you more stressed and more hungry. So you start to go down this vicious cycle of creating hormones that call for foods that you don't need, but that you want. And the more you eat them, the worse it is for you by adding on the calories and adding on the stress, and then just continuing to go down this vicious loop where you just can't seem to get out of it because all you're doing is activating the hormones in your body that are now working against you, as opposed to that perfect cycle, which should be ghrelin and leptin working in unison, keep you balanced. Okay, so now it's time to start taking action. What can you do to overcome all of these problems that you're faced with that are causing America to become obese? And you don't want this to be you. So the first strategy is to crowd out. Here's what I mean by that. Many times when people think about eating healthy, it's about what you can't eat. You know, you can't eat carbs, you can't eat fats. This is more about what you can eat. What you want to do is you want to crowd out the spaces where you're filling it with junk food and fill it with good food. So you want to eat high protein foods like chicken and quinoa and Greek yogurt. And you also want to eat high fiber foods like fresh vegetables and fresh fruit. These will give you a full sensation, and the high fiber foods will actually slow your digestion, which will allow you to stay fuller longer. So the first strategy is to use overcrowding. And by doing that, you want to eat foods that you're allowed to eat, and you just want to eat those until you're full, and you want to replace it with the junk food that you would normally eat. The second thing you want to do is go for a 10-minute walk, but not just in the middle of the day. You want to do this after you eat. And we're not talking about a high intensity walk, but just a 10-minute walk that will allow you to start to burn the calories that you just recently taken in. Remember, when you eat food, the food is used for energy. And if you don't use that energy right away, then your sugar is going to spike. By going for a walk, you're going to start to actively engage the call for insulin insulin, and your body is going to start to respond to it. So where our system is currently broken, where we may become a little bit more insulin resistant, or we already are insulin resistant, this little walk is going to help kind of reset that system and allow your insulin to start using that sugar in a way for energy and not store it for fat. And again, it's just a 10-minute walk after you eat to kind of keep that sugar spike from being too high, and by activating the insulin that your body naturally produces. The next strategy is to give your body the rest that it needs. Oftentimes we are so busy and on the run that we don't take care of ourselves. And this is where we run into 5 or 6 hours of sleep at night, and the sleep that we are getting isn't really deep sleep. And this is where our body starts to not use the chemicals there to protect our body in a healthy way, but we start to use them against us. So if we start to give ourselves the 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep that we need, we're going to start regulating our ghrelin, our leptin, and our cortisol in the way that our body is designed to. So you want to start taking your sleep seriously. You want to start putting a system in place where you can go to bed at a routine time. You want to make sure your room is cool and comfortable so that you can get to sleep quicker. Another way that you can do this is cut the screen time 30 minutes before you go to bed, and perhaps take a warm shower or read a book. These are things that can actually maybe help you fall asleep quicker. I know it sounds kind of like childish, but we actually need to take care of ourselves if we want to have better health. And these are things that will actually allow you to fight against obesity. And it's weird because a lot of times people will say, oh, it's laziness. Getting good rest is not lazy. And as a matter of fact, what it does is it allows you to use the natural mechanisms that your body comes with in a way that they are at their peak performance, not in a way where they're struggling just to figure out how to protect you. If you're not sleeping, you are fighting a battle against biology, and that is not healthy. You want the body and the hormones to work the way that they're meant to, and they are meant to do this with rest. All right, so in conclusion, we're talking about how we can start to fight against the obesity problem. And this isn't about looking like a fitness model or a bodybuilder. It's not about fitting into a certain size pair of jeans. What it's about is having your body operate at the proper metabolic function. I hope there's some really good takeaways that you can take from this video. We really appreciate a like, share, and subscribe. It'll help our small channel grow. And we want to make sure that this message gets passed on to whoever needs it, because we know that American obesity is a big problem. And this video is designed to give you the information that you can now take and overcome the issues that are in your world. We would just want you to know that the obesity problem is not your fault. You're not lazy, and you're not making all the bad choices. A lot of these are issues that have been stacked against you, but now that you know, you can take these steps to improve your life. And if you'd like to let us a comment below, let us know which one of these you're going to do today. You certainly don't have to do them all. If you take one action today, you'll be taking one step forward towards your health journey.